Hi everyone, I'm Brittany Pardue, and I'm a master's student with NC State's ESL program. This presentation describes a multi-genre project that I've designed for the ESL classroom based on immigrant experiences. I've designed this text set for the adult ESL classroom. I'm a community college ESL instructor, and I typically work with adult students, so I wanted to build a project I could actually use in the classroom. However, I've drawn from primarily children's literature to build this text set. The texts are both at the right reading level for my adult learners, and the picture book illustrations will aid comprehension. We will use these children's texts to investigate very complex themes like immigration, survival, discrimination, and racism. So while I've utilized children's literature, the themes are highly appropriate for adult learners. This project could also be easily adapted for use in an upper elementary school classroom. I'll touch more on this when I walk through some of the supported state standards. The last thing about my classroom is that it is multilingual and very diverse. Spanish and Chinese speakers tend to comprise the largest linguistic groups, but I also often have French, Kenya-Rwandi, Amharic, Pashto and Farsi, Arabic, Cambodian, Tagalog, and Korean speakers, to name a few. Within each of these linguistic groups, there is also a huge diversity of economic, professional, and academic backgrounds. Some of my students are highly educated professionals, while others have experienced interrupted formal schooling and have only recently learned to read in their home languages. In addition, the students vary widely in age, from roughly 18 to 70. One thing all of my students do share is that they are all learning English, they are all minority language speakers, and they are all immigrants. For this project, we will examine immigrant experiences and how these stories and events are portrayed in literature and text. I'll now walk through a bit of the rationale for the text set and the lesson design. First, I've aimed to create a text set that is culturally responsive. As ESL educators, we have a responsibility not only to support the grammar and language development of our students, but also to foster and support our students' social and cultural development. As language minority speakers, language learners often face unique social, cultural, and interactional challenges. Yet traditional curricula might present an idealized world in which everyone uses the same variety of English. Everyone cooperates and migrants don't have to struggle. The inequality, racism, and marginalization and culture clash that language minorities experience on a daily basis are often not included as themes for discussion. When language learners are presented with authentic and complex texts that reflect the real-world interactional challenges they face, they can better develop linguistic and sociocultural tools to navigate and confront these challenges. As language minority speakers, my students regularly have to impose reception as legitimate speakers during interactions. They are quickly and often unconsciously judged for their culture, skin color, clothing, and accents. In the Song of America from the 1961 musical West Side Story, which we will use in this text set, protagonist Anita croons about her dreams for her new life in the United States. She sings, "I'll get a terrace apartment," to which Bernardo snidely replies, "Better get rid of your accent."
Life can be bright in America if you can fight in America. Life is alright in America if you're all white in America.
In addition to culturally responsive texts, I've attempted to select texts of high literary value and authenticity. The text set includes fictional and nonfiction texts in a wide breadth of forms, including poetry, narratives, graphic novels, music, journalism, picture books, and chapter books. For the illustrated pieces, the text include a wide variety of artistic media, soft pastels, watercolors, rich oil paintings, pre-Columbian art, comic book art, and more. This project is designed to capitalize on my students' funds of knowledge, their existing life experiences and skills, to create a highly participatory learning environment. In this project, my students are the experts. When we break the traditional dichotomy of knowledge, wherein educators hold the knowledge and students receive knowledge, as educators, we can become partners and critical co-investigators alongside our students. Rather than being the source of knowledge in this project, I aim to become the facilitator. I will use participatory style read-alouds as described by SIPE to encourage engaged learners. I will also facilitate extensive group discussions, cultural comparisons, and personal reflections, building a participatory learning experience in which my students exercise control over their own learning processes. In this section, I'll provide a brief overview of the text and some of the activities we'll do throughout the project. The first theme that we discuss is survival. We also spend a few weeks discussing acceptance and analyzing how this is portrayed in literature and text and for what it means. We also will spend time discussing and investigating activism through text and through literature. We'll also analyze immigrant identities and how these are described in both picture books, children's books, and young adult novels. In one of my favorite activities, we'll examine two stories that discuss child migration, family separation, coyotes, detention centers, and survival. We'll examine the folkloric elements in both of these modern stories and consider how the authors use these elements to share their messages. Beyond this, we will create personal reflections, compare and contrast essays, peer and self-reviews, other personal creations like poetry, wordless representations of individual experiences, and personal narratives. We will participate in many guided group discussions, and we will also write a critical analysis essay and an opinion essay. We will have multiple student presentations throughout the semester. Rather than a final project, all of these individual activities will be compiled into a student portfolio to demonstrate holistic growth and learning over the semester. I mentioned earlier that this lesson is designed for adults, but it could be easily adapted for the upper elementary school classroom. Many Common Core state standards are supported by this project. 2 6th grade ELA standards that underpin the entire project discuss comparing and contrasting texts from different authors, forms, and genres in terms of their approaches to similar themes and topics. In addition to these 2 main standards, a number of additional ELA literature and informational text standards, along with reading, writing, and even social studies standards are supported by this project. This project aims to facilitate the growth of my students' language skills, reading, writing, speaking, and listening. But far more than that, this project aims to support and foster the cultural and social development of my students and of myself as an educator. Language is one of the ways in which humans construct, regulate, and change the social world. I hope this project aids my students in finding their new emerging voices in English and in allowing them to construct, regulate, and change their worlds.
So much trouble in the home of the brave and the land of the free. Am I an immigrant or am I a new slave, made for all brutality? I don't think so. Is it that man has lost his reason? He can't even blame the heat. They're moving like jackals in the hunting season. And the refugee soul is the meat.